Twitter has a new boss, a Mr. Parag Agrawal, who is brand new, and the first thing he did was announce a new raft of changes to their terms of service, which would, of course, increase the amount of censorship that's going to happen on that platform. Here he is, pictured with Jack Dorsey, and he has been with Twitter for over a decade.
Wow.
So it's not like he's some random guy who's just been parachuted in. He's done his time in the trenches, he's worked his way to the top, and congratulations to him. And it's interesting how he's kind of part of a kind of Indian vanguard in Silicon Valley that has been conducting their own sort of long march through the social media institutions. And you see a lot of Indians on Twitter posting about this. In fact, you get lots. As you can see, you've got the leader of, the Indian American leaders of FedEx, COS, Global COS, I don't even know what that is, Google, Microsoft, Nokia, MasterCard, Pepsi. And if we go to the next one, you've got Adobe, IBM as well. And so there's a huge amount, as I say, serious talent coming from India, not staying in India, but it's going to California. Mm-hmm. And they're doing their, due diligence, going through these institutions and rising to the top.
Well, Indians do tend to have a very good work ethic. It's a stereotype, but it is also partly true.
They absolutely do. And so we get to see what Silicon Valley and Twitter particularly is going to be like under this new regime. And so Twitter have I think it was the day after, or it might have been the same day, that Jack Dorsey resigns, expand their social media policies to, they say, we're updating our existing private information policy and expanding its scope to include private media. Under our existing policy, you can't publish phone numbers, addresses, IDs and all that sort of thing. But there are growing concerns about the misuse of media information that are not available elsewhere as tools to harass, intimidate, and reveal the identities of individuals. So sharing personal media, such as images or videos, can potentially violate a person's privacy and may lead to emotional or physical harm.
Well, that's very interesting because I, for one, can think of some quite recent revelations of personal identities which you could argue are strongly in the public good.
Got any examples?
Like the Waukesha
That's a
killer,
great point. Although I think there is an argument to be made that in the United States, if you're on trial, you become a public figure.
Right.
So I'm not sure about that. I think what
Fair
they're
enough.
talking about really is sort of, they do specifically say, in fact, the misuse of private media can affect everyone, but can have a disproportionate effect on women, activists, dissidents, and members of minority communities.
Yes, insert here, most affected.
Yes. But I find the activists and dissidents most interesting because that is probably going to mean Antifa, because there are several people on Twitter, not necessarily all of them on Twitter now, but Project Veritas and Andy No, who make a point of saying, well, these are the people who are currently burning down American cities. Mm-hmm. You should be aware of that. And there's no reason why that shouldn't be published. But this would actually prohibit that kind of reporting. Of course, the blade of censorship only cuts one way. I think it's very unlikely that any people who are demonstrably politically to the left are going to be affected by this, because, in fact, they do carry on and give us the fact that if we scroll down a bit, John, you can see on here, they say, we recognize there are instances where account holders may share images of videos or videos of private individuals in an effort to help someone involved in a crisis situation, such as the aftermath of a violent event or part of a newsworthy event due to public interest value, and this might outweigh the safety risks to a person. We will always try to assess the context in which the content is shared, and in such cases, we may allow the images or videos to remain on the service.
So we reserve the right to be completely arbitrary.
Yes.
Very nice.
That's precisely what that means. And so what you are going to experience is censorship that cuts in line with Twitter's and Twitter management's existing biases, which, as we know, are far to the left. And of course, Mr. Parag is not concerned about free speech, and this is something he has made explicitly clear. We can go to the next one. When this was revealed, this quote from a 2020 interview...
Oh, God.
Our role is not to be bound by the First Amendment, focusing less on thinking about free speech. Well, Stephen Crowder actually found the audio of this. And so credit to him, of course, for getting this. Good pause there, John. But no, Stephen's great and he's doing great work. And so let's listen to this audio.
Somebody in the audience is also pointing out that you're trying to combat disinformation. You also want to protect free speech as a core value, and also in the US as the First Amendment. How do you balance those two?
Our law
Okay. John's having a quick 5 minutes.
Somebody in the audience is also pointing out that you're trying to combat disinformation. You also want to protect free speech as a core value, and also in the US as the First Amendment. How do you balance those two?
Our role is not to be bound by the First Amendment, but our role is to serve a healthy public conversation. And our moves are reflective of things that we believe lead to a healthier public conversation. The kinds of things that we do to work about this is to focus less on thinking about free speech, but thinking about how the times have changed. One of the changes today that we see is speech is easy on the internet. Most people can speak. Where our role is particularly emphasized is who can be heard.
Deciding who is going to get heard or which voices should get more attention is just as fraught a question as which voices should be suppressed.
That's exactly right. I think the notion of centralized content moderation, centralized algorithms is long-term really, really challenging.
Right. So,
wow.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a particularly fraught thing, why move away from the First Amendment protections and just allow everyone to speak and not take that job as your own?
Well, to be honest, it seems like one thing they're saying is, and we've seen this from social media before, it doesn't matter what you say because we get to choose who hears it.
Well, that's exactly what he's saying.
Yeah.
That's precisely what he's saying.
And so they presumably feel they cannot be bound by First Amendment legal restrictions and can be completely arbitrary by controlling this environment.
And technically, they're not bound by First Amendment legal restrictions. There's absolutely, in fact, the First Amendment protects the social media platform's right to censor whatever they like. So I view this as a particularly un-American perspective.
Absolutely.
On free speech, and I find that interesting.
It's extremely authoritarian. It's very insidious.
Yes, it is. But again, like the idea that they're going to now curate who is and is not heard on Twitter, I think is deeply disturbing.
They're going to actively create what they consider good conversations.
Healthy conversations.
Oh.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, again, as if there is no inherent bias in such a thing. But so the question is, well, who gets to decide such a thing? And one might say, well, Twitter users have endorsed this by signing up to Twitter, but nobody signed up to Twitter with that policy and that guy in charge. So this is actually an invasive
That's true.
new policy. And you might remember that in 2009, Jack Dorsey called Twitter the free speech wing of the Free Speech Party.
Where's that Jack Dorsey? I haven't seen him for a long time.
We haven't, and so that has absolutely disappeared. And so the reaction from right-wing publications like The Federalist has been to expect more partisanship and censorship on partisan lines, which is totally inevitable in my opinion. I mean, the way The Federalist frames it is Twitter announced a new set of rules on Tuesday that effectively banned the dissemination of memes and the mockery of public figures. Possibly, but the thing is, at the end of the day, they've given themselves license to do whatever they want. There's just no particular limiting principle to anything that they're doing. And so possibly and probably, frankly, Fox News, of course, have pretty much the same opinion. Nobody's impressed with this. Independent thinkers beware. Censorship on social media is likely to get even worse. And what I find really interesting about this is now Jack Dorsey is like the right-wing beacon of free speech. Yeah. Look, Jack Dorsey deplatformed Donald Trump. So I don't see why the right wing is suddenly like, oh, Jack Dorsey was great. And this is what they say. That depressing forecast is the only reasonable conclusion from the news Monday that Jack Dorsey, Twitter's chief executive, was leaving the company he founded in 2006. With his prophet-like beard, Dorsey is probably second only to Elon Musk among technology executives in his combination of brilliance and strangeness.
Oh, please.
I know. Why is Fox News lauding Jack
do you know what
Dorsey?
this reminds me of? You know when someone dies and in their obituary you write all of the nice things you remember about them. It kind of reminds me of this.
Yep. But it's not just right-wingers who complain about this. You get the centre-left criticism from someone like Michael Tracy. Exactly right. If you scroll down, he's got a thread here that basically covers the same thing we've covered, to be honest. And he concludes with, as usual, we're at the mercy of the context police after they issue decrees that will obviously be impossible to enforce with any consistency or neutrality. Completely correct assessment, in my opinion. But there was an interesting point made by Axios in a particular article that I thought was actually really good. The point is, it's no fun being a CEO of a social media platform anymore. And that's a good point, because we've got to remember that all of these CEOs are nerds.
Yeah.
They're not political. They frame it really well here, actually. Recent years have seen social media's public trust plummet in the US as users blame the companies for polarizing national politics, abusing personal information, and letting hate speech run rampant. Well, some people think that. The CEO's job has grown increasingly political. Rather than messing around in the world of can't win politics, most tech CEOs would rather be dreaming up new platform ideas and leading teams of developers. Dorsey has been the CEO of Square, which is an online payments company, the whole time he ran Twitter, is expected to pursue his passion for Bitcoin, crypto, and blockchain movements. And that's a great point. You've got to remember that these people are just nerds who are like, hey, this is, they were messing around with code. And then suddenly millions of people are looking at them and using their product. And they're like, oh God, okay, what now? And this is why I've said in previous podcasts, I think Mark Zuckerberg's like a nerd riding a dragon. That he's just suddenly magicked into existence that he doesn't know what to do with and can't bear to get off of.
It's very mythological, isn't it?
Well, it is. But I mean, like Zuckerberg, when he first started Facebook, he was just trying to find hot women to date. Like a nerd. But anyway, as a consequence of this, alternative social media platform Getter started trending on Twitter, which Jason Miller obviously was enjoying. Jason Miller, the CEO of Getter and good guy, was enjoying. And so they put out a very political but also true statement. I'm not going to go through it because it's basically Twitter is not for free speech anymore. And this is going to be against the right wing and pro the left wing. And that's an obviously true statement, even if it is political. Mm-hmm. And this kind of political censorship will not be happening on Getter because Getter is a First Amendment platform.
Yeah.
They are, Jason Miller is a MAGA American. So he's deeply committed to the founding principles of the United States. And so good, frankly. So this is why you should go and follow us, lotuseaters_com on Getter. Honestly, the platform's been growing really, really well. We've only been on there for a few months, already got 16,000 followers. My personal one's over 21,000 followers. So, come and follow us over there because at some point, you're probably going to get banned from Twitter.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com and sign up to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got absolutely loads of this. We've been doing this for over a year now, so we've got a massive library of content that we're really, really proud of. We've got loads of premium articles, which we have written by our in-house writers and external writers, such as this one by Hugo, which is talking about the great narrative of the World Economic Forum and how it's falling apart. The cracks are becoming visible. And we also have, for Silver Tier members and above, an audio track read by Jonathan Crow, who's a very, very good speaker, and this makes it easier for you. We also have our regular series, such as Contemplations, like this one, where I debate Josh about whether free will is an illusion or not. I am very firmly on the free will exists side of things, and Josh is wrong, but you can find out why if you go and sign up. We also have the epochs that Bo and I do, which is fantastic. At the moment, we're halfway through, 2/3 of the way through the series on Belisarius. Do you know who Belisarius is, Callum?
Got to reconquered Rome.
Yes, he did. And
lost it.
It's honestly a genuine tragedy, and it's a really sad tale. And we're just at the apex of his conquests at the moment. But next week, we'll get to enjoy the tragedy of it. It's really sad. But we also do loads of other stuff, like interviews that we did one recently with Philip Tanzer, who's a men's rights activist and conservative activist. And in this second one, we end up talking about the sort of metaphysics of masculinity. What is it you're trying to uphold by being a man? And I think it's important. Lots there to learn. And he's a very interesting thinker anyway. We also have the book club, which is fantastic. We're about to record another one now, but this last one we did was Niccolo Machiavelli's The Prince. So if you want to get the most out of these books, you can join us there, because we've done a lot of work studying these. And we also do premium podcasts covering sensitive subjects, such as what happened to the January the 6th rioters. And we do slightly more academic ones, such as this next one about the origins of intersectionality. Where does the term come from? What's the point of it? Well, I went and read everything that Kimberly Crenshaw wrote about it, and, well, it's not good news, frankly.
In addition, you can also follow us on any of the social medias, such as getter.com, so you can follow us there at lotuseaters_com, and also you'll be speaking at the Counter Conference conference.
Yes. The Counter Conference at the London O2 on December the 8th.
Yes.
I'm going to be speaking on a panel with Jason Miller, Lawrence Fox, and a few others. It's going to be fantastic, so come down and see us there.
Anyway, if you'd like to get access to all that premium content or follow everything we do, please sign up at lotuseaters.com. Thank you and goodbye.